welcome back for another Sins of a Solar 2 Empire video, this time featuring the Vasari Alliance. The next capital ship up for review is the Antorak Marauder. This is the support ship for the Vasari faction. It is the same for both Alliance and Exodus, so we will go over this ship together. Oops, give me one sec. Weapon arcs and names and points. Alright, close that. So the Antorak Marauder is the support ship for the Vasari. When it comes in at level 1, where is it? Level 1. It has 1865 shield points, 1025 armor. I'm sorry, 915 armor. I do have a upgrade right now. Hull points come in at 2680. I do have an upgrade on that as well. The ship has a base speed of 720, which is the fastest of all the capital ships that we have. And it comes with a squadron of bombers, gets another squadron at level 4, and then a third squadron at level 8. Those bombers do 5 damage a second and are quite tanky. The antimatter on this one as a base looks to be 322. I don't believe I have any upgrades on that. I do not. Comes with 2 beams, 8.2 DPS with 500 pierce. They actually start with 8. The 0.2 is because I have leveled up on the warfare, and it gets 0.3 per level on those beams. It has 1 heavy phase missile launcher with 27.5 DPS at 600 pierce. Those missiles, nope, wrong one. Those missiles have 9 health, do 72 damage apiece with 600 pierce. Has a medium wave cannon, 5.2, or 2 of them, 5.2 DPS for a total of 10.4 with only 180 pierce, and then 2 point defense pulse guns with 7 DPS and 0 pierce. Looking at the weapons, the 2 point defense ones are on the back of the ship. They are a little bit mostly rear facing, but there's a chance that these may actually point a little bit forward if the angle is just right. It's a little bit of a goofy angle, as you can see. Again, mostly rear, maybe a little bit of overlap into the front depending on what you're shooting at. The other ones, we have the 2 beam ones on the side. Has this, I believe it's this arc right here. Basically 80 degrees outward on both sides and almost all of the front. The wave cannon is, where is it? Waves are also right here. They are front facing. Looks like they have an arc that goes all the way up and around and then kind of curls a little bit to the back. So maybe a little bit past halfway. So you might be able to get a couple shots, not 100% backwards, but a little bit backwards. And then the missile shooting is this big arc here. As with all of the other ones, it does have a 180 degree angle when it shoots. This reticle right here is your planet bombing, so you have to be extremely aligned to hit those planet bombs. This ship is not a high DPS ship. I would believe that anyone who does use this ship on a regular basis knows that the reason you get this ship is not because of its high damage potential. Although I guess if you have nothing else and you have to fight, it's going to do, it looks to be about 40 to 50 damage, plus whatever bombers you have on it. Alright, getting into skills, the reason you get this ship is one, the phase out hull. Phase out hull shifts the target into phase space, makes it invulnerable, and also preventing it from attacks or using abilities. So you basically make a ship invincible, but also unable to do anything. So it has a 27-second cooldown at level 1, 18 seconds at level 2, and 9 seconds at level 3. The cast range is 6,600 range at all levels. As you can see here, it is quite a radius on it, even further than the firing range of the ship. The antimatter is 120, 90, and 60, and then the duration of the phase out is 3, 6, and 9 seconds. Sorry, just shutting some doors. So the reason you get this skill, like I said, it is a phase out. It will act as a stun, and this is actually the only thing that we have on our faction that acts as a true stun. Things that it will do is it will, if a Radiance casts Animosity, you can use the phase out hull to cancel out the animosity, and even if it comes back in after the duration's over, your frigates are free to target other ships or to run away. It also will stop missile barrage from the Marza Dreadnought if you can get it into range. The Marza has a much substantially larger range than phase out hull, but hitting the phase out hull on the Marza will stop the cast at that point. It will not continue casting when it comes back. Other uses for phase out hull, if you have something like the progenitor that's doing a shield regen, that's a good one to also stop because it is a channeling shield. Otherwise, there's not too many other channels in this game, but it will break every single channel. It also breaks momentum on a ship, so if a ship is trying to turn, the ship loses whatever turning speed it has or acceleration it has or top speed that it has. So you can use it as a slowdown of enemy capital ships to hopefully catch them before they leave a gravity well. Other things you can do with it for yourself is you can phase out your own ships if they are being focus fired by something. Such as, let's say, Javelus or enemy Canrack are all shooting at one of your ships. You can time it so that the phase out hull goes into effect right as they're about to hit, and all of the missiles will not shoot. This is really, I would say, the only flak control we have other than point defense on your ships. So again, if something is burst targeting your capitals, you can use it to phase yourself out. You do not get any regeneration while you're in phase out. So stuff like shield regen, if you have the armor regen item, or if you have hull regen, those do not activate, or those are not active while you're using it. However, your cooldowns will continue to tick. So if you're using something with a long cooldown, or if you just need a couple seconds to get a shield burst off, this is what is going to get you that extra time to keep something alive. But as I said, you can't move while you're doing it, and it acts as a true stun. So you can't apply heals during it. You can't apply, if you're doing a Scarantra, you can't apply either the Repair Cloud or the Armor Heal. So you have to very carefully plan when you're going to use it and know that you're going to be in phase out for 3, 6, or 9 seconds. But again, what I end up doing is with this ship, I usually get as a reactionary ship for however many Radiances and Progenitors that the Advent have. I get this for as many cold battleships and Marzas as the tech has. And then against other Vasari, I get this for as many Cordal Devastators as the other enemy Vasari has. So again, good skill. I do wait until we've used second generation crews. This will pop out at level 2, so you can get 1 point in phase out hull and 1 in distort gravity, and we'll get to that one in a second. The second skill is sabotage. Let me go to this one. So level 10, sabotage. Level 1 is structures within a radius of a targeted structure suffer weapon reload rate and factory build rate penalties. Structures within the gravity well also build more slowly. So it's not, I would say it's a 1 point wonder if you're going to get it. I don't bother to get it until late game. It's not as good as Quell is on the Advent Revelation. I would say it's not as good as the Sova with its ability to increase the build speeds in a gravity well. This might be what you need to maybe break a starbase, or if you're in the middle of a fight and you know that the enemy is building ships while you're fighting, you can try and throw this on a bunch of factories, but it's not exactly a make or break skill for this ship. So level 1 to level 3, 90 seconds, 75 seconds, and 60 seconds. Range remains the same. You can see it is a decent gravity well range, but we're talking in a gravity well, unless everything is clustered together extremely nicely here, which sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. This will get you just that little bit extra. Antimatter cost is 120, then 90, then 60. Ship build time increase is 24, 48, and 72%. The orbital structure build time is 24, 48, then 72 as well. Reload goes from 12, 24, and 36. And then duration is 48 seconds, 60 seconds, and 72 seconds. So you end up applying it for longer than the cooldown. And then the radius is goes up from 3,000, 3,600 to 4,200. So currently, this is my size. I'm going to level it up 1, and it gets slightly bigger. Again, this isn't something that I'm going out of my way to get unless I'm walking into a gravity well with a dozen turrets in place. I'm not touching this. This is not the reason you get this ship. The next one is probably the reason you get this ship is the distort gravity. It is a passive that increases movement speed of all friendly nearby ships. As you can see, it's got a 9,600 radius at all levels. Max speed goes from 816 to 24, and then max turn speed, the wiki is wrong, so I believe, give me one moment, is 12, 24, and 36% turn speed. This is a other than phase out hull. This is again the reason you're getting the ship is the phase out hull stun. The distort gravity is the only thing that we get that will increase the speeds of our ships outside of phase resonance, getting the mobility tree. Or if you're a ship, you get the gravity stabilizer item. And then there's the warfare of the armor tree here where we get some extra turn speed and some extra acceleration. Anything to help our ships turn faster, not die, is a good thing. I would say that this is probably the second skill that you get after you get phase out hull. Distort gravity is what lets us eventually outspeed the Advent, because I think I've talked about it before. The Advent have higher base speeds, and we would need distort gravity to start being faster than them. And I think it's at level 2 we are faster with everything. So level 1 gets us pretty close, and then level 2 definitely makes us faster. The final, the ultimate is phase restoration. It's got a 2-minute cooldown, 9,000 range, as you can see here, does not require to be aiming, just has to be your capital ship in this radius. You can only select one capital ship, so you need to be careful which ones you're picking. So within this range for 90 antimatter and a 60-second duration, if the target friendly capital ship dies, it goes into phase space rather than being destroyed, and after a short delay, it returns with a large fraction of hull, shield, and antimatter. So you can see you get 90% shield, 66% armor, 66% hull, and 66% antimatter. I have not been able to use this one in practice. In theory, it is a good, I hope my capital ship doesn't die. The problem is that this ship is likely going to not make it to level 6 very regularly. A lot of your games will be decided before this ship gets there. Any levels that you can get on this ship go into phase out hull, then distort gravity, and then at level 6, if it comes to it, you get phase restoration here. So again, it's probably it'll keep your Scarantras alive if your carriers start getting lethally attacked, but it's difficult. You're probably going to want to take auto cast off, and whenever you see something just getting absolutely shredded, you drop it on there and keep it alive for that much longer. Does have a 2-minute cooldown. I would say that this particular skill is one you want to get cooldown for, and you definitely want cooldown for phase out hull. So we'll go items. I believe you should probably put nano catalyzer on this ship, but not to use for this ship. It does have, well, this one's got a lot of antimatter. This is without any upgrades. This is 788 antimatter that you get just by leveling. The other one, you start with 322, which will get you probably 3 casts of phase out hull. Yeah, because your cooldown is so long. 27 seconds is a eternity in this game. So if you are trying to catch either a Radiance or a Marza, with the Radiance with Animosity or the Marza with Missile Barrage, you have to make sure you time it right. If you miss that time where Missile Barrage has been cast or Animosity and you pick the wrong Radiance, chances are you're not going to be able to fix it unless you have a secondary one ready to go. Where was I? Items. So you want Nano Catalyzer on this, but not for this ship. The ship has more than enough antimatter on it. Even if you're trying to save 90 here, as you can see, you're going to have somewhere around 500 antimatter to start with anyway, and this is only going to cost 60 at that point at level 6. So chances are you don't have anything in Sabotage. You'll have 2 levels in Distort Gravity and 3 in Phase Out Hull with the 1 in Phase Restoration. So you get it, you cast it manually on something if you don't already have Nano Catalyzer on one of your ships already. Definitely have Nano Repair Swarm on it. Treat it as a true support cruiser capital ship. Keep your other capital ships alive, and then just keep it in a spot where it's healing and doing some other things. This might be the only ship that I say Nano Attack Swarm, even late game. At a point in the game where everything matters, this might be one worth getting just to maybe get that enemy capital ship into crippled hull that much quicker, kill something off that needs to die, and then do whatever extra damage you can. The range on this is, I don't think I have it. It's about the same range as being able to shoot, so decent size. This is actually a decent one that if you're going to deploy star bases on, this would be the ship to carry it. You do not have a ton of required items on this ship. Anything after the consumables, I don't even think you bother getting unless you maybe need a phase attenuated shield to keep to use the active for phase missiles against another Vasari. but you definitely don't need any offenses on it. As you can see, this is not exactly your high damage ship. It's not your Devastator. It's not your Volcaros Desolator, which we'll go over probably in the next video. But this is not the ship that is doing damage to enemy capital ships. So you don't need any of the offense ones. Phase Attenuated Shield, I think, might be the only one you get. If you have a lot of the Endurium, you might get a self-repairing armor just to keep it alive. But for the most part, you're going to be sitting on these 3 consumables and maybe the shield. And this is just you probably have already won the game already if you're getting this. Don't get bomber armor. You don't have enough of them. There's no reason to keep your strike craft alive at that point. Gravity Stabilizer, I actually don't recommend getting it, just because you will make yourself so fast that you run out of range of all of your own ships. It might be something that maybe you get as soon as you start a battle in a gravity well that you know is game deciding. You would need that turn speed, that acceleration, and max speed to possibly get in range to use the phase out hull you need. But this might not be something that you want on the ship, because it will get out in front of other ships. Because as you can see here, this one has a max speed of 850 with Distort Gravity on, and that's the only thing giving it the bonus move speed. The other one, 720 max speed, as I said, but this is the fastest one, or fastest capital ship already that we have. So to get to 850, it's going to be outpacing your other capital ships. And 850 is, I believe, the same speed as our oppressors. So those will actually be in front of you, and light frigates will absolutely be in front of you. But this one will be out in front of all your other capital ships unless you're microing it backwards. And then especially with Gravity Stabilizer, you will basically be a race car for capital ships. Resonance Amplifier, I don't believe any reason to ever get this. I don't think I've ever seen anybody purchase this unless they're memeing. And then Antimatter Recharger, you're not going to have antimatter issues. Antimatter issues with this ship. You're only casting phase out hull. Sabotage, like I said, unless you're breaking star bases, you might only get one ship here that ever gets sabotage. And it might just be one Marauder that you use one time to break through a base. You're probably not leveling it up to level 3 even. You're not going to get the levels. You'll have too many capital ships by then. So that's it for those items. Real quick on the minor faction items. Crippled hull, the Armored Citadel. I would actually say you don't want to use it on this ship, only because you probably have other ships you want to keep alive. Unless you have gotten 2 or 3 of these in your bank here, that's the only time I'd ever use it. This kind of ship, it's not one that you need to keep alive unless it's early game. If it is early game, spend whatever you need to keep it alive, because you're probably only on 2 or 3 capital ships, and losing any one in that early game is going to hurt. So keep it alive if it's the one that's dying, but it is not the most critical of the capital ships in your fleet. You can afford to lose these. You'll pump them out again at level 2s, and you'll just get 2 points in here, and you use it for the 1 stun you needed to use it for. I don't have the faction revealed here. It should be the ship item here is the plus 20% experience and minus 20% cooldown. That item actually might be worth putting on your ship here just for the additional cooldown. Phase out hull, having that little bit of cooldown, 20% would give you about 6 seconds at level 1. And I believe I said it was a 27-second cooldown, so you go from 27 to 21, which it could make or break a fight early game if you can get up to the ship experience item. So I do recommend it. And then Jump Field Stabilizer. Again, I think there's other capital ships that you would put this on if you're going to put it on any of them. This is not the one that ends up being, again, this is your, like I said, this is your most expendable capital ship. If you do get it to level 6, maybe it becomes more important to you, but chances are other capital ships have reached level 6, and those reaching level 6 is more critical than this reaching level 6. Phase Resonance, you do like the mobility. It makes you even more of a race car than you usually are, but again, you're already so fast in this one that yes, having the extra mobility and extra move speed is nice to have for everything else. If you cannot get to level 5 on mobility, 1 point in combat is fine, but you actually do benefit a lot from having the utility. So if you have the 36% cooldown with a 9 seconds, just quickly, I think it knocks it down to 6 seconds. So it becomes quite quick. You can very quickly phase stuff back out. Maybe you have a bunch of Canracs that are shooting at yours, or a lot of Javelis that are shooting at one particular ship. You can just keep doing phase outs on whatever they decide to shoot their volley at that round. So you can have, I think, if you do have max resonance on utility, then you might actually want the other, the 20% cooldown item, have basically a 5-second cooldown on a 9-second duration at level 5. Trying to think what else. So Empire, the antimatter, like I said, it doesn't really matter because you're using so few skills on this ship that it's not one that's going to actually matter to you. Phase jump and friendly telemetry are always good, so it's not something you're going to make or break. Weapons, I don't think that these are, you're never going to look at these and say, hey, I need this upgrade for my Marauder. They're just, if they get upgraded, then they get upgraded and your Marauder gets a benefit, but this is for other ships entirely, because again, this is a support ship. Because it is a support ship, you want everything in the defensive tree per usual. This one actually this is the only ship where reverse shields for Alliance is to your benefit. As I said, you can phase out your own ships. By doing that, you get into shield burst timers, and if you phase yourself out, the timer does not stop ticking on shield burst. So as soon as you come out of phase space, your shield burst can activate. So keep that would be the reason to get this. And then as far as when you build this, you can, let me go back to homeworld. So early on in your homeworld, obviously you start with the evacuator. If you want this ship, you need 2 blues and a white. So you can get the Devastator, and then you cannot go Scarantra if you go Evacuator, Devastator, Marauder. That's the option you have. You cannot get the carrier unless you find another Endurium somewhere, and then you would have these 3 here. You can also go with your starting Evacuator. You can get the Desolator and then either the Marauder or the Scarantra. I would recommend the Scarantra early. This ship, the Marauder comes in, like I said, you're probably waiting until you have 2nd generation crews before you purchase a single one of them. It's not something, I would argue you never want it second. It does not have any skills that will help you clear a gravity well quicker. The Devastator definitely does. The Desolator definitely does. Even if you went for a 2nd Evacuator, you're probably starting Subspace Rupture on that one. That'll clear quicker. And the Scarantra, because you get so many bombers, and even if you do kind of go out on your own and colonize in a secondary path, maybe you get 1 point in elite bombers to add 12% damage to them, and just go way up that way. But you should not be taking the Marauder as a second ship to go and clear gravity wells. It gives you, none of these skills are super effective at leveling stuff up. I've seen some people grab Distort Gravity as their first skill, get the Minor Faction and get the Colony Seeds. You go into the Gravity Well with Distort Gravity, you immediately snipe out the Siege Frigate, and then just go to the next Gravity Well. The only reason you would ever run into problems is because you are so fast. Your cooldown on Colony Seed Nanites has a 2-minute cooldown, and you might just outspeed your Colony Seed Nanites. But even then, the Scarantra, in my opinion, does it at an equal enough speed that I don't think that you should be using it as the secondary capital ship. I think this should be your third or even fourth or fifth capital ship when you're buying them. For fleeting up, I kind of already talked about it. This is one that you want to, I would say, reactionarily get against the opponent. It is always nice to have a Distort Gravity for your fleet. As I said, the max speed for our ships is not the best at level or without any upgrades. We do need at least a level of Distort Gravity, if not 2, just to keep up with enemy ships. So you can try to run away from Disciples with skirmishers, but you get 1 level of Distort Gravity and all of a sudden you are faster, and then the Disciples are probably shooting at your Marauder and not your skirmishers. Things like that. So it's not a horrible ship. It is a ship that I find myself getting more and more of, essentially to counter enemy ships. So I do counter the Radiance, I do counter the Progenitor, and I do counter the Marza. It's nice to have for against a coal battleship. It's nice to have against a what is it? I think it's a Revelation. The secondary support ship for the Advent. You can zone that one out, and then it doesn't get to cast Vertigo on your fleet for a moment. But it's mostly good for stopping channels and interrupting channels on your own units, or on your units to save them. So that's the Antorak Marauder. I think the last thing I didn't talk about. So as far as economy, so it takes 2 Kalinite and 1 Endurium. We've kind of talked about Endurium and the uses on it. Mostly you will be fighting for Endurium against the Scarantra carrier. You will want as many of those as you can get your hands on. You will also want it for the Devastator, but you only need 1 for the Marauder. And so if you can sneak 1 away from your Scarantra build or your Cortal build, I absolutely recommend doing that. Other things that you're competing with here is maybe the self-repairing armor. It goes on the Titan, and then it goes on Starbase defensive items. And for the most part, it's defensive items for the rest of our tree all the way down. So not something you're super fighting for with those exotics. And then the Kalinite, the Evacuator takes 1, the Scarantra takes 1, and then the Marauder takes 2. It does fight with phase jump inhibitors if it's mid or late game, and then the Gravity Stabilizer probably is the only one that you might see other ships using. I think I've already talked about the Antimatter Recharger. I'm on the fence on that one still. I don't think that you ever want to get it on a ship unless you're like level 5 or level 6, because otherwise the consumable is just cheaper overall because of exotic costs. And then the other 2 is the Administrative Uplink. It is actually quite a good item to expand our planets if you can afford it. So that might be one of the few things in the mid game that you are fighting with on your own ships. And then the other one is Crystal Nanite Base Unlock. It only costs 1 Kalinite to open up the upgrade. After that, the item is available on all the planets. So it only costs 1 to do the Empire Tree unlock here. After that, it just costs crystal and metal to put on the planets. So you're not fighting with them everywhere. Late game, I've seen as many as 5 of these in fleets. Literally just to use phase out either on yourself or on the enemy fleets. So more of these just for the phase out reasons. I think I've kind of talked to that ad nauseum. So that's it for this video. Look forward to tomorrow for the Volcross Desolator, another one of the important ships in our arsenal of capital ships. Thanks, have a good one.